All right. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. We're going to wait for a few more people to trickle in. So yeah, thanks for joining. Alrighty. We can go ahead and get started. See, Greta joined us. Kenya's on. Perfect. Okay. So welcome to the stakeholder meeting for May for Solar for All. We're super excited to focus on the workforce aspect of our program. I've got some folks on here from Midwest Renewable Energy Association, Nick and Greta. I'll have them introduce themselves a little bit more in depth after I go over kind of just a quick overview of the status of the grant because we have a few updates. And we're going to talk about some workforce solutions, our year one plans, and kind of how we envision Solar for All funds to be used to help develop our workforce. So we'll go ahead. So this slide's mostly just for folks that are looking at the slides online or watching the recording. They can click on that link and learn more about us. So for the status of our grant, we have received approval on the quality management plan, the QMP, which I think I talked a little bit about last time. And we have received comments on our quality assurance project plan. And we were waiting for those as of last meeting. So we're really glad to have those back to us, and we're going to revise and resubmit. And that should be back to us with full approval within 1 to 2 weeks after we submit. So hopefully that'll be end of this month, early June. And then that really opens things up. We can start going through the state contracting process with the workforce grant, grant contract and the disaster recovery related contracts. So we're really excited. And then that will also kind of allow us to shift our focus with this group onto the other programs in our work plan. So the LIHEAP and community solar aspect, community resilience hub, that kind of thing. So. All right, so we've got Midwest Renewable on here. Nick, Greta, I'll let you guys kind of take over here. I put a little blurb about you guys, but I'm sure you have a little more in-depth stuff to say. So.
Yeah, I can jump in to get us started, and then if Greta's on, she can fill in or correct if I get anything wrong. So we're a nonprofit organization. We've been providing training, solar-related training since 1990. We also do some customer engagement work. Our business member association at any given time have between 1,500 and 2,500 members. We currently provide accredited solar training aligned with the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners. And we're, I think, the only organization accredited to provide training for all of their certifications. They now have a new certification for energy storage. We actually helped develop the task analysis basis and testing standard for that energy storage certification. We have, I think, probably what we're best known for is customized training. So we have partnerships with workforce organizations, utilities, solar companies, state offices, tribal associations, community groups, where we customize training for anyone's needs. Provide training to more than 1,000 individuals a year, and then we also host industry events that we call Energy Pro Demo Days. So those are kind of like continuing education events that engage with other training providers, manufacturers, distributors, technical expertise in like a conference setting aimed at contractors. So we've been talking with good folks here about supporting this effort. I should also say we also our training model is we have some in-house instructors that would be considered full-time, but we contract with temporary instructors, a regional network of instructors that are active in the field, and then they go through an instructor development and support process with us and deliver classes. So I think the strength of our model is putting people who are actively working in the field into classrooms with curriculum support. And so I also had suggested as part of this that instructor development could be an aspect of that to support capacity in delivering this training. And then I think the last thing I'll say is most of our training is aligned with NABCEP, but we also have developed additional kind of introductory hands-on training for groups that are new to the industry. And so that has been particularly helpful with three audiences. We've worked with like the Minnesota Department of Corrections, so soon to be released inmates, done training there. Community groups in areas that have kind of high levels of continued unemployment. And then also on the utility scale side, which isn't really a focus here, but kind of that introductory worksite safety, post-rack and panel work. So we really have kind of the full scope of training from very introductory to advanced operation and maintenance, energy storage, et cetera.
Yeah, we're super excited. I probably should have said this is our planned partner for this aspect of the program. I feel like that might have been kind of inferred, but wanted to make that a little more clear. So we're super excited. We think they can kind of meet our needs here in Kentucky. Here's our vision a little bit. I think what you said, Nick, aligns with what's on this slide. We really want to expand skill sets in the housing developer space first, and then kind of work our way out. So we want to offer the PV related courses, of course, but we also want to incorporate, like you said, instructor training, but then also things like intro to electricity. So yeah, the full NABCEP solar certification can be offered, but then we also want to, meet the needs of folks where they're at. And if they need an intro to electricity to get started in the PV world, we really want to offer that as well. So the main goal is to build capacity and spark interest in our solar industry.
Hey, Nick, it's Kenya. I was just going to jump in and see if you could provide the group in your experience. Kentucky is a state where we don't have a very robust solar workforce development program because our demand has not been such. What are some common trends you see in like new to workforce development states that are kind of going to inform how we roll this out in the next year? Just curious, Nick, since you've worked in many states and some have robust programs and some like us are kind of just getting started.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think a really important question. I think there's a couple things to consider. The first is, um, it's important not to pretend there's fire when there's only smoke. The last thing you want to do is redirect someone's kind of like workforce career for a market that may or may not develop or may or may not exist. And so I think the first strategy is really try to integrate this training in as much with construction and electrical competencies as possible and, make sure that it's a well-rounded training. The second aspect of that is solar is really being integrated much more into construction, electrical, and HVAC services, and we kind of see that throughout the industry with this trend towards electrification. And so I think that the first is to make sure that in this particular project where it is more related to active work, I think that's important. But just with the understanding that a solar installer may or may not be a career that develops in someone's area. And as with most kind of trade professions, it's often the case that people don't necessarily want to travel to work. They want to work in somewhere in their area. And the general strategy, for the utility scale solar, that's more like a oil and gas job. You kind of like go out into the middle of a field and work on a situation for a while. Whereas these types of systems, they're building integrated, connected to people's meters on homes and businesses. And so in as much as the partnership can engage with contractors that are already doing electric service upgrade work, that are already doing energy efficiency work, I think that's all the better. And then I think the second is, I think that a good mix of upskilling contractors that have the capacity to already do the work while engaging kind of employees that are transitional or new is, so instead of putting all the eggs in one basket, to kind of blend the workforce system in a way where you're engaging employers at the same time that you're kind of engaging new people to the field is probably good.
Okay, no, you're muted.
I was going to act as moderator on the question here. Dan Nolette, is the vision here to grow new contractors or to help grow? Well, I think building on what Nick just said, I think initially we're working on expanding the skill set of kind of existing contractors. We will have programming through next group to where if you're brand new in this space and you want to go through the whole training, we would have scholarship opportunities to grow, brand new, meaning you're not already a builder, electrician, HV, if this is something you really want to do on your own. I think that's sort of the vision is first, Dan, it's really help existing contractors, whether construction, electrical, HVAC, or the affordable housing developers expand their skill sets in solar. And Nick mentioned we also are going to provide battery as well in this one since we're doing some storage training as well. Does that help, Dan, with your question?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, let me jump in here. You reminded me of something that I didn't mention as far as kind of like working in new markets. I think my answer was really thinking about the market and the employer, and I think the third piece is the worker. And so, that in solar, there is an entry-level credential that has, I think, a lot of value, the NABCEP PV Associate credential. And so I think credentialing is important because it gives it, and that's a third party credential. So we teach towards the test, and that test is administered by a third party. Credentialing is important for employment. It just demonstrates an employee's commitment. And so beyond that, of course, I think gold standard would be some sort of apprenticeship pathway. And so I also think focusing on some sort of credential, whether it's NCCER Core, NABCEP PV Associate, an apprenticeship pathway towards licensure, that really kind of like helps with attrition, so it keeps people involved, and also grows the professional capacity of the worker. And so I think that always to underwrite is to try to empower the trainee, the potential worker, to have some sort of credential, some sort of transferability, some sort of value to bring into the market.
I will say this, Nick and I ping pong off each other. I reminded him and he reminded me. We do have funding set aside separately for apprenticeship programs. Yes, John, if you're an existing contractor, you can expand your training. So yes, we don't have any limits on, brand new, starting from scratch or just expanding. So yes, John. But we do have funding. We will be doing a call for applications in the future for those, to Nick's point, those interested employers who would like to stand up an apprenticeship program in this space. We have funding dedicated to an apprenticeship program. We felt it was most prudent right now to build to that. And this first year is really getting to know Nick and his team in the state, getting them to get to know our stakeholders, contractors better. getting familiar with seeing them in the state, and getting training deployed. That's as best as I can say. That's year one. Keep in mind, this is year one. We'll have workforce development extending over the 5-year period. So in year one, as Emma pointed out, we're reaching out to stakeholders in the workforce space to get Midwest Renewable Energy Association familiar and known, launching online courses, launching certification and credentialing opportunities. One I'm excited about, Nick, you may want to talk about the power of the demo days. I know we've got some demo days and on-sites available, and that may be something
Oh, I lost Kenya. Can you guys hear
we can
me?
get OSHA. You
Oh,
can,
there we go.
oh, sorry. I said the demo days is a great opportunity because it's my understanding, Nick, you do some OSHA training then and some other things in demo days. So we may want to hear more about that, but that's going to be in our contract as well.
Yeah, I think that's an interest. That's a good stakeholder discussion because that might be a very good way to engage stakeholders. So the demo day, like we call it Energy Pro Demo Day, because it's kind of can engage a whole range of stakeholders from HVAC to solar, energy storage, energy efficiency, home weatherization. And the goal there is to bring all the different training providers, manufacturers, distributors, businesses, and workforce education agencies together in a 2-day kind of continuing education session really focused on workforce development. And so we've done now 3 demo days. We do them independently or associated with professional conferences, where I think the last one we did was with Wisconsin, Renew Wisconsin annual conference. And so there, for example, we had sessions on energy storage, on inverter programming, on National Electric Code, generators. So it's kind of like a catch-all workforce event with networking. And so that might be a really good way to get all the stakeholders together, provide some training, see, and it's also it gives a good sense of the kind of products and manufacturing base available and the training available. And it's probably a good way to really kind of like stimulate partnerships and ideas and at the same time get continuing education. Um, the continuing education that we provide at the demo days are usually twofold. This is the NABCEP, which is the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, and then the local electrical licensing body. But that could also include, for example, engineering association or architects or BPI or anything that we would like to pursue that we think is of most interest. And in this case, it might also kind of include affordable housing providers or whatever we think the stakeholder set is. But the goal there is to have some sort of continuing education to get the professionals from that industry to come.
Yeah, I think that would be a really great way to get folks together. We kind of debated on putting that at the beginning of the year one or at the end, and I think, after we thought more about it, it could be a really good way to open it up. I don't know what you guys
So
think, but
part of the stakeholder part of the stakeholder discussion is we'll be trying to find that appropriate venue with Nick and working with stakeholders and contractors to get the word out. I appreciate Wallace put in the chat. He's been to a demo day and he thought it was worthwhile. So I think it's a good way for us to utilize our time in year one to set some expectations. And also, it's not going to be, I don't know how to say this, it's not going to be perfect all the time. And we're going to have to learn and flex and navigate, adjust, see what the needs are. But we know you all have some existing needs in your own organizations and staff. But we also know we have some unique partnerships, as Nick has mentioned, veterans organizations, and other organizations where we could maybe increase the pipeline and skill set. So we're excited about working with Nick and his team. And I didn't know if if Greta wanted to jump in.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm Greta. I'm the training director at MREA. I think Nick summed everything up pretty well, but I thought it'd be good to just reinforce the fact that MREA's training has been through a lot of different morphs over time. I started with the organization in 2007, and at that time we had state incentives that had local electricians attending a lot of our courses, and that was our main training base at that time. And now that solar is a mainstream industry, we have a lot of people entering the industry at, this is their first job or they're pursuing education for a job in solar. So like Nick said, we've adjusted our training programs to have more of an intense entry level training program. And we just launched that in the last year and a half. So that's a new program for us. Starts students out a little slower, not assuming that they have a background in electrical, usually delivered in person, which gives people more hands-on with meters and things like that, gets them more comfortable. But during COVID, we transitioned all of our courses online on demand at any time. That also provides access for a different audience and for different learning styles. And I like that you guys are including both online and in-person opportunities for people in this program. I think they meet a lot of needs that way. We can also break up training credentialing pathways up to one course at a time. So for a lot of people, just our working with electricity or basic PV class is just enough for them to either decide that they want to get involved further, or maybe that's enough and they learned the basics and can be on their way. But there's lots of flexibility in our programming, and we're excited to work with everybody. So thank you.
And just to let you all know, we do have wording in our work plan with EPA around installations being done by credential.
We lost Kenya there for a bit, but we have language
Sorry,
in our work plan. No, you're fine. Work plan that says that we need credentialed installers. We said, I think NABCEP certified or equivalent work experience. So we left it kind of broad, but our goal is to have as many certified folks as we can.
The other thing I wanted to ask, I saw Seth Long is on here, and I know Seth has been doing some installations. I know we're going to get to that, Emma. I didn't know if you were going to have Seth.
I actually had Seth on. I messaged Seth and we talked about maybe doing a June meeting. I think that's where you were going, Kenya. We keep going in and out with you, but yeah, Seth is on, but he will be on next meeting to talk about disaster housing success stories and that space. So we may have lost her for good this time. I'm not sure where she was going, Seth, but if you would like to kind of, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to talk about maybe what some of your needs would be, or if anyone wants to hop on and kind of express what they would like to see from this training program, and after you've heard what Midwest has to offer, we would love to hear some comments and your all's experience.
Sure. This is Seth. I'm not sure, where she was going either, but just listening to the conversation, the training is so critical for capacity and being able to grow it. And for us, it's the chicken or the egg thing here. It's hard to increase capacity when you don't have the work to do. Because if you bring somebody on, you want them to get real on the job experience as well. So one of the things that I was just wondering about during this conversation, like in year one, will there be any possibility of doing installing while we're training as well under this program? That's just a thought that I had.
Yeah, I think they could make it work for you guys. I think as long as someone on the install is certified, I believe that's how we kind of worded it, or has equivalent work experience, which Seth, we know you guys do. Um, I think that would put you guys totally fine to continue doing installs as you build capacity.
Yeah, and along with that, which we'll talk more about in June, is, there's a lot of work being done in EKY on the disaster sites, the higher ground sites. And here in the next couple months, we'll see a lot of opportunities popping up as these houses get under roof and things like that. It'd be great not to get too far behind the eight ball and behind on the work that could be done while we're training people. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, we're totally with you on that. We understand the time crunch for sure. We're working hard with EPA to get some things moved along, so we're hoping to be able to catch up with you guys and help keep up with that capacity need. Brad, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Emma. And you might not be able to speak to it yet, or maybe you're going to talk about it here in a little bit, but how is the training here with you find folks at MREA interfacing with the community and technical college system? So that's one question that I think would be interesting to sort of hear how y'all are thinking about that. And then I have a second question around sort of interfacing with employers and making sure that the employers and installers in the state are able to identify some of the competencies that they're seeing as a gap potentially in workforce or folks coming into the workforce.
Yeah, to the community and technical colleges, me and Billy were having from our office, we were having a conversation about this, and I honestly am not sure. I think we had a discussion, Nick, about some equivalent courses you guys were having up where you guys are in Wisconsin, but I would have to have more conversations, I think, with KCTCS, which we have not had. But I was just telling Billy that we are, interested in seeing how that pathway merges with what they offer as well. So I think that's a very valid point to make, and we're looking into it.
So one thing I'll just flag there, some of our CAICEA employers many moons ago worked with Big Sandy Community and Technical College to build out that photovoltaic technologies certificate, which is a 9-hour set of courses, and it's really sort of being tacked on to the electrical program that a lot of 2-year associate degree students are sort of participating in. So like that's something to look at. And I know that there's also some conversation around more of like the operations side, like once the system is operational, I think Hazard Community and Technical College is working on some sort of credential there that is part of their academic coursework. So anything we can do to help with that from the CAICEA perspective, just let us know.
Hey,
Yeah,
Emma,
definitely interested in that.
Emma, it's Kenya. Can you hear me now? I'm not going to turn on my video.
Yes,
Okay.
that might have been the problem. I feel like
that
happens sometimes. No worries.
So to Brad's point, I think it's a 5-year program. I think integration with the community colleges, right now we don't have a robust community college PV program. It's my understanding, and Nick and Greta can jump in, I think the 9 hours that somebody might receive at the community college could prep them for additional coursework at MREA, whether in person or online. We would not want to compete with a competing credentialing like in Hazard. Like that would make sense. Like if you had something in Hazard, you want people who are there to be able to take the classes there in Hazard versus like going somewhere else. So I think it's really a matter of coordination and just understanding of like, well, if you took this class here, that doesn't mean you can stop. Like we have a pathway for you where you can do some additional online training or go towards full credentialing. Maybe I'm missing the point, Nick, but I think that's how I see working together. And Brad, it's going to have to evolve because
absolutely, totally get that.
I think year one is establishing a program, working out some of the kinks, like Seth had mentioned, like how do we train and do installs in a timely manner. given the disaster housing, given how we're going to have to go to contracting. So we are going to have some timing challenges. I will say we've got a good draft contract with MREA, and we think we can that contract can come into place very quickly. And we are also drafting a contract, Seth, with PPC and Kentucky Housing Corporation. We think those dollars can start flowing. Well, we could have a contract in place maybe July, August, Seth. I know that may not be soon enough, but we can get the QAP approved and at least we could have contracts in place, and we think we could have work being done this summer, you know. It's ambitious, but it's year one and we're making the best of it with the federal government situation and trying just to get the dollars to the people who are doing the work. And Midwest is doing the work, and Seth and team are doing the work on disaster housing, and Scott. But we also know, we need training on batteries. We don't have a lot of battery installs, and so we're gonna have to figure this out together, which is why we're here. And I'm going to lean on you all as experts to give us feedback, tell us what you need, and help us. Like Greta said, we're going to have to flex and change as the landscape changes. But I think we've got a great opportunity in year one to build skill sets. If anything, I would say, Nick and team, this is just about building skill sets and seeing how we do that.
Yeah, I can jump in. There's also a good question in the chat from Anne. So I just talk about some things we have done and can do. So we have worked with for a long period of time technical community colleges to both, like, technical community college instructors train for us too. So there are instructors also. They often, what we say is R&D our stuff, so rip off and duplicate, and that happens. But we also have partnerships with colleges where we deliver training as part of a certificate program to help the students align with NABCEP. And so I think in that, like, a training ecosystem, a solid training ecosystem would have an organization like the MREA that can be directly responsive to employer and group needs and provide training on demand and customized where it's needed and when it's needed. Technical community college programs that are integrating solar and energy storage into their existing degree programs and have instructors that have, like, the knowledge and capacity to deliver and materials and equipment to deliver good training. And then also, of course, apprenticeship is a gold standard. So making sure that there's pathways there when appropriate. I should say, we have had a federal contract or a subcontract with the Interstate Renewable Energy Council and the Solar Energies Industries Association to get national guideline standards of apprenticeship approved for existing occupations that are applicable to the solar industry. The DOL has determined that solar installer is not an apprenticeable occupation, but that the solar industry can host existing occupations as apprentices. So we had our first national guideline standard approved 6 months ago for construction craft laborer, and we're in the final stretch of a 4-year electrician standard, where the national guideline standard, which includes the work process schedule and the related technical instruction, are designed to work for solar industry employers. So that, I think, is an interesting emerging market. And then to address Anne's question here is, I think the immediate option for us always is, well, if you have a good NABCEP installation professional on the job, maybe they want to teach, and maybe that's can look like an in-house program or contracted to teach as part of this and developed as an instructor that teaches our curriculum. So for businesses that have that capacity, what we've found, most of our instructors work for businesses that do installation, and like a rising tide lifts all boats, that helps their company and also attracts employees to them. And then beyond that, as far as like upskilling employees, there's always new stuff to learn. And I think the demo days is our response to that, is to bring the latest and greatest for continuing education for NABCEP, and then also to constantly be offering courses that are kind of like responsive, whether it's NEC code updates or operation and maintenance or energy storage certification. So there's always more to do and more to learn. And so I think we can, our skill set is being responsive either to the like initial worker that's just getting trained, but also to really support professional development advancement with existing employees, including recruiting them as instructors when appropriate.
I was just going to respond to Brad in the chat. Nick, that was great. I totally agree. And also, I mean, having more employees certified is always a plus. And so if that's the path you want to go down, we would love that. But Brad, I would love to get that conversation going. If you want to shoot me an email just to remind me after this, I will work with Nick and Greta and all them to get a conversation with you guys.
That sounds great.
Especially on the apprenticeship side of stuff.
Yeah, sure. And I'll go ahead and start rallying the troops. I think we've sort of been preparing for this conversation for a while. So happy to help any way that helps it hit the ground successfully.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
I will say this, our contract is not in place yet so this is the nuts and bolts. We're working with MREA to get our contract in place. We're going to be working through that process. Once it's in place, a lot of these discussions will happen because guess what? I'm paying Nick and Greta to have these discussions.
Totally understand.
And
that is true.
And we will be
Kenya, I think we lost you again. I'm not 100% sure where she was going. But hopefully she comes back in just a sec. Maybe she'll hop in the chat. I think she's gone again. Okay. I hate to like keep shifting away from what she has a thought, and then we're having a conversation and then we lose her and I don't know where to carry it. But if anybody wants to throw a question up or a comment or something like that, we can look at that for now until Kenya hops back on. Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm Andy McDonald with Kentucky Solar Energy Society and Apogee Climate and Energy Transitions. Does the program have a vision of creating some type of state certification or approval for contractors who can participate as installers in the program? And where I'm going with that is, we have a lot of concern about unqualified contractors installing systems or predatory marketing going on. People, consumers buying systems that where they're buying it from one party that then subcontracts installation to some other party, and sometimes that party doesn't get a net metering application. They don't file permits. The homeowner signs a long-term financing contract, which has really predatory terms. So a state certification for contractors might help with that. And are you thinking about how this can assist with that consumer protection issue?
So we are working with Kentucky Housing Corporation, PPC. Kentucky Housing Corporation mentioned creating kind of like a master list, going through a procurement process, and getting a list of installers ready to go so that, you know, whenever the installs, this is more on the year one stuff with disaster housing and that kind of thing. You know, consumer protection is a huge issue that we're going to work through the whole grant, but just for the kind of immediate right now, vision is kind of like a master list. We'll go through a procurement process, or KHC will, and PPC will kind of reference. And, you know, those contractors will be on a list. And then, you know, if I know that Seth is going to do his own, but an HDA, and Seth might do HDA's installations, that kind of thing. But we're going to work through a pretty stringent process to pick and choose who gets to install. It's not going to be the homeowner individually seeking an installer. It will be, it'll be higher up, us, KHC, PPC. So we do understand that is a huge concern, but I think the way we have it set up, it may not be as big of an issue. But it's an issue across the board with distributed solar, residential solar. So I don't know if that answers your question. And if you have a vision for a state certification program, I mean, we're interested, or Nick, if you have comments on that.
Okay, I'll reach out to you later. Thank you.
I'd only say that this is an industry-wide problem. I mean, just yesterday I got a call from a lawyer and they said, hey, I have a client. He's a member of ours. He's an individual member. Potential client, this and that. I asked him who the installer was. I'd never heard of them before. I looked them up online. They have our logo on their webpage. They're not a member of ours. They have the Better Business Bureau logo on their webpage. They're not part of the Better Business Bureau. And we organize solar group purchase programs where we do a procurement process with contractors, and are very particular now, having been burned once about 8 years ago when this first started happening at scale. And we'll only say that there's a partial solution on the workforce side. But one thing that we have found that is very helpful is like the demo day and these kind of like joint trainings that happen. These are really good times for the industry to understand who the players are and understand what's happening and converse about this stuff, and a really good place to kind of like have these discussions because it tends to come out when you see the type of folks that are participating, new businesses in the area. And so I think that we tend to be a hub of this kind of stuff, and we are actively working on these issues. So I just want to recognize that is a big concern.
All right, Nick, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. My name's Nick Melillo. I'm with the Center for Sustainable Energy. I was just curious, this is kind of for the Solar for All program as a whole, if you guys planned on releasing any like third-party program administration RFPs or anything of that nature, or if everything's going to be done in-house.
Yeah, right now, all in-house. That's our plan going forward. Good question.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
I would say one follow-up on the consumer protection piece that may be of note, and maybe some of you are participating in, is SEIA through their standards committee has come up with 2 standards, it's like 201 and 401 that will be finalized. They've been in kind of like this process. The standards are ostensibly consumer protection standards, but they're really applied to contractors in the design, installation, and maintenance of solar and energy storage systems. And the 201 standard, which is really more of a consumer standard, I would say the bulk of that standard is on training requirements for employees. And so when SEIA has looked at this, and like the training requirements are like what needs to be, it's both a training requirement of the training that a design and sales person should have, but also what is required as far as disclosure and information in a site assessment proposal. So there will be some guidelines out there that the training can support, but again, like this is a recognized issue and something that we would definitely take in consideration when we're like talking about training. And maybe that's also a bit responsive to like the type of training that can be provided to existing kind of like NABCEP employees or firms. Is what do these standards mean, and what additional stuff is out there? As an example, for like disruptive technology that kind of shuffles the deck when it comes to this stuff is like Scanify, for example. They were at our first demo day. You know, they're basically using drones to change the whole kind of like site assessment process. So there's always kind of these things that are happening that training, like a good workforce program, can address.
Just reading the chat here. Yeah, we would be interested in that, Dan. We've talked a little bit with Steve Ricketts, and he's mentioned providing some assistance on that front as well. So we're looking into it for sure. All right, that's the end of my slides. We've got about 15 more minutes if there's anything else that pops up. And if not, as always, you guys can contact me. And I can send you guys to Nick or Greta if I feel like they're better equipped to answer the question. Oh, Andy. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, another question. I wonder if you all are thinking about the impact of the net metering sunsetting, possibility of net metering sunsetting for different utilities. LG&E, KU are approaching their 1% threshold maybe in the next year. Duke is expected to reach 1% in the next year. I'm not sure about the co-ops, but the utilities have the option to stop offering net metering when they get to that 1% threshold, but they're not required to. And it would be a real shame to have all these resources becoming available for putting in solar and then have the utilities withdraw net metering and have the customers who receive the benefit of this program get compensated 3 cents a kilowatt hour for the energy they generate. And so I wonder if your office might or is considering engaging with the utilities to let them know of the public interest value in them continuing to offer net metering.
I mean, yeah, that's a concern. It is, the timing is rough. Kenya has great relationships with utilities. We talk to them quite often, but ultimately, I mean, that is a little bit out of our control and our reach as a state organization. So, but that is a great point to bring up. And yeah, I mean, these are concerns, and we would love to have. We're going to have a utility stakeholder engagement at some point. I would love to have that conversation with them. Like I said, Kenya has conversations with them like that all the time, but ultimately, it is sort of out of our hands.
Yeah, I understand, but at least for them to know, for them to hear from you that you can see a value in them continuing it,
yeah,
would be worthwhile. And
it's possible that Kenya had these conversations outside of me. I'm more on the programmatic, head down, working on work plans and things like that. And Kenya might have had conversations that I haven't yet been updated on. But yeah, where it stands right now, I'm not really sure where we're at in terms of motivating utilities in that way. But Travis, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a great question, but I'm Travis Witt. I'm with FAHI. So we're a network of nonprofit housing developers. Homes is one of our members. And I was just wondering, like, for folks that, I guess, is the training workforce development piece, I know that's going to be part of the program requirements for Solar for All for you guys, but like, other nonprofits that just want to do solar projects and find that eligible or the filtered contractor to do that work down the road, like what kind of timeline would we be looking at? And do you have any idea if those are going to be like individual project-based grants, or if they're going to be like a continuous application that goes to fund like the actual installs, or just any information you could give me on that would be great.
Yeah, so you're talking like just in general, how the structure of dispersing funds to do installs.
Yeah, like say I'm a nonprofit
Yeah.
and I've got a big facility I want to put solar on, like what could I expect and how could I benefit from this program, you know?
Yeah, so we've got a bulk of our program is going to be focused on disaster housing in year one. We've talked about that. Disaster recovering communities like, the high ground communities out in Eastern Kentucky, and then we've got some communities in Western due to recent flooding, but also tornadoes a couple years back. And so we're going to be focusing on those developers. And I know you guys have some folks that are working on that. And then, as this program evolves, things can open up. It's really just a low income residential program. So, it's our end date is in 2029. And so we're still kind of developing stuff. We're going to also do some work with weatherization, which I know you guys have kind of been familiar with. So the homes that have been through the weatherization program will be eligible for solar. And so that can be a good piece of the puzzle for you guys. We're still developing that. That's going to be more of a year 2, year 3 program. So I don't know if that helps.
No, that helps a lot with the timeline.
There's definitely a lot
yeah.
to come, Travis, for sure. And we're going to have more meetings with you guys at FAHI.
Okay, that's great. I really appreciate it.
No worries. All right. Any other last few questions? We've got about 10 minutes.
I have one more question. I have one more question.
Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead, Travis. No, you're fine.
This is just generally, like, is this program in danger? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
no, I get those questions all the time.
Okay, what's going on there?
Yeah, so we right now have no reason to believe that these funds are at risk. There is, you might have seen an article that there is like an audit going on of Solar for All, but that's just pretty typical. It's a new program, so that's to be expected. But yeah, it's been business as usual, and we'll continue that way until we think otherwise. But we've been very lucky to kind of have been able to keep this funding and feel relatively safe with it throughout the whole administration change. So we feel good about it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and call it, but you guys can always email me at that email on the screen. And we're gonna be sending this recording out to the folks who attended and also the identified stakeholder list. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm going to be sending out an email about June's meeting. I already kind of said that Seth is going to be on. We're going to focus on disaster housing. He's going to talk about some of their successes, and we're going to have a conversation around what that program will look like with Solar for All dollars. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
To
Have a
Midwest
good weekend.
Renewable Energy Association for being on. Thanks, Nick and Greta.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.